Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Welcome to this first episode of Insights. I'm so excited to be delivering this for you and to you and with you. And thank you for joining me. I thought in this first episode, what I would do is just spend like 60 seconds on my background just very quickly and why I'm here doing this. And more importantly, I do want to focus, if I can, on for what purpose, like what is the reason why I've created these Insights episodes and what they're all about. So just very briefly, I've been a student of human emotion all of my life, starting way back in the 90s in the classroom, studying, doing majors in sociology and psychology and statistics, my Lord, and all these different things. And then that I discovered very quickly that being in the classroom is very, very different to being in life and life experiences. And later on, I got a job working as a rehabilitation counselor at Ford Motor Company, and that was a very difficult and challenging job for those couple of years that I was doing that. Very political, lots of agendas. I had no idea what was going on around me. I was 27, going on 19. I was very ignorant. We're all, I guess, I'm still ignorant now, but just a different level. And then from there, all I knew was that I wanted to work with people, but in that formalized state that I was working in that role, that role that I had at Ford just didn't do it for me. So all I knew is I wanted to work with people. And I was talking with a fellow rehab counseling colleague of mine who had an amazing experience selling his home. And he was talking about his agent in this way that just got my curiosity beyond curiosity. So long and the short of it is I spent in the next 7 years, I translated, I transformed, I moved, I transitioned. What's the word I'm looking for? Transitioned into the world of real estate. And I worked in real estate for 7 years. And boy, oh boy, I learned so much about human behavior working in that space, especially when money is involved. Money tends to amplify all of our strengths and weaknesses. It amplifies the beauty and the ugliness of the human condition. It does everything in between as well. So I got to experience and meet so many amazing, beautiful people. And I also got to meet some people that were very difficult to deal with and connect with. And I learned a lot in that time. And then after 7 years of doing that, I got lost. I literally got lost. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I took a year off, about 15 months, in fact, and I went on a sabbatical. And I got to meet some amazing people when I went off and did all kinds of journeys, fascinating journeys into the world of meditation, silent retreats and vision quests. And it completely blew my mind, literally, because that was the whole purpose of it. So I could learn how to sink into my soul and experience life through my heart. And it was an incredible journey. And I have incredible mentors in that space way back then in 2004 in the form of Michael and Marlise Carroll, who will always be deeply endeared in my heart for the contribution that they've made, not only to me, but to my marriage. Incredible people. And so that was an amazing journey. And then I kept looking after that because I was running out of money. So I was on this sabbatical. I went back to my job just very, very temporarily. And then I met an amazing woman called Sharon Pearson, who's the founder of Australasia's largest coaching school, the Coaching Institute, and became qualified in the realm of coaching and training in the realm of human behavior, and started my own coaching practice and training practice way back in 05, 06. And on behalf of the Coaching Institute, I've had an incredible privilege and honor of now having trained over 6,000 coaches who work in the field nationally and internationally. It's been an absolute honor, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that experience. It's just been incredible. I've met some amazing people who have learned how to embrace the courage that it takes to listen to what's going on within us, to listen to that whisper inside. So that's a very brief history, which was meant to go for a minute and went for 4 minutes. So there you go. So why are we here? Why have I created this Insights podcast series, which is more than the series? I plan on having this going for many, many years. So let me ask you some questions, and this will determine whether you're in the right place or not. So have you ever been stuck in that proverbial fork in the road and literally not knowing which way to turn? Whether that fork in the road has appeared in your career or in your business or in your marriage or in your parenting or in your personal, spiritual life, emotional life, physical life. Have you ever had that fork in the road with your health, perhaps? Have you ever questioned that what once mattered simply now matters less or matters no more? Have you ever had that sort of thought? If you have any of these thoughts, any of these questions, you're in the right place. Have you ever just sort of begun questioning, well, like everything? Questions like, am I on the right path? Am I in the right career? Am I in the right relationships? Am I in the right friendships? Am I even in the right country? Some of us might even ask, are we even on the right planet? My Lord, that's a whole nother conversation. Some of us might even ask, have I climbed the wrong mountain? If you relate to any of these questions, you're in the right place. Can you relate to this? Have you ever had the experience of where people hold you in higher regard than you hold yourself? And there's been a gap between what people think you are and who they think you are versus who you think you are and what you think you are. Has there been a gap? Have you ever experienced that gap? If you can relate to that, you're in the right place. Have you ever experienced what I call inner emotional turmoil, where no one on the outside knows what's going on within you, and you begin to feel very frustrated internally? You feel completely misunderstood and even alone. Have you had these experiences? I know that I have. If you have, you're in the right place. Have you ever felt like a freak, kind of weird, obtuse, off center, like you don't belong here? I've had that experience. You're in the right place. If you can relate to any of this, you're in the right place. If you don't relate to any of this, well, maybe you're not in the right place. So we begin to ask, is anyone else feeling this way? And that was one of the instigators, one of the inspirators of what, that's a word that I've just made up, inspirators. Let's pretend that word exists in the English language. So, but have you ever felt like, been asking, does anyone else feel this way? Have you ever asked yourself the question, what on earth is wrong with me? I know I have. We all have. If you have, you're in the right place, because we get to answer these questions thoroughly in these episodes. It's amazing. I can't wait to deliver these incredible episodes of Insights. I know that when I was younger, I was born in 1970. So when I was, I don't know, in my 20s or 30s even, perhaps in my 30s, I was asking questions like, why can't I just fit in and get on with it? Why am I feeling like this? Why can't I just fit in and get on with it? Is this it? I remember asking myself that question, is this how I'm meant to live out the rest of my life in this career, in this town, in this country? And some of us might even ask, in this relationship, if you resonate with anything I've just asked, you're in the right place. These experiences of emotional upheaval, feeling this turmoil on the inside, can happen at any stage of life. It can happen whilst we're even on top of our game. We may have, truly climbed the career or business mountain and found ourselves staring over the range to another mountain, realizing that we're now on the wrong mountain. Have you ever had that experience? If you have, you're in the right place. So why do we feel this way, guys? Why do we feel that, this confusion? Why do we feel this disparity? Why do we feel this contrast? I used to say to myself also, why can't I just be normal and quietly go about my life and pay my bills? Why can't I just be in a job that my parents are proud of? That was a question I used to ask in my late 20s and early 30s. But that's a very foreign question these days, to me anyway. Why can't we just fit into the world's ideal of success? You would have heard me say in the introduction to this podcast that I believe that success needs to be redefined. Success should be more centered around the value that we bring to others, and we'll explore that more thoroughly in Insights. So if you're curious about that, you're in the right place. What's the reason why we get so lost? Is it because there's something within us that is evolving, changing, or transforming? I believe there is. I believe that within all of us there's an emotional compass, and that emotional compass changes direction according to our life stage, according to the perspective shifts, according to the different experiences, different stages of life, different levels of responsibility, all this changes. This emotional compass, pretty much guides us to what matters to in our lives the most. It points us in the direction of what we will spend our time on, our money on, our spirit on, our focus on, our energy on. So if you want to get clearer on what your emotional compass is, you're in the right place, because values, to me, an emotional compass is a value, and a value is something that we don't find outside of us. It's something that's intrinsic, that is built within us, that our values, we're born with our values, and our values are there to be discovered, to be unveiled, to be related to be loyal to, and to live through. But the problem and the challenge we have with values is that the values consistently, or continually rather, evolve and change as we grow and as we go through different life stages. So if you're curious about that and how do we get deep around that, you're in the right place. That's what we're going to be exploring in the upcoming episodes. This emotional compass that we connect with also is something that can confuse us as well. So that's something that we need to look at more thoroughly. The other thing I want to share with you is that the values that we experience with our emotional compass, what can happen is we can find ourselves in places where people are talking to a version of us that no longer exists. And it's not obvious to the outside world. Have you ever experienced, I can remember Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now, he would say in that book, and I'm ad-libbing here big time, he would say something like, you've probably gone through your own personal evolution or perspective shift, or something has shifted or changed within you in one afternoon, and yet the people that you're talking to in the next day are still talking to the version of you that you now know no longer exists. It can be as subtle or as obvious as that on the inside of us. I know that there are many people in my history, people from my past who talk to me in a way that, to aspects of me that no longer exist. Have you ever run into an old friend from high school and all you can picture is the version of them that you knew of them back then? Well, that's really unfair on them. It's unfair on ourselves. It's unfair on both of us, isn't it? So we get to explore that. We also, another aspect of what Insights is all about is how it is that we tend to begin to experience environments where we begin to disengage with those environments. What I mean by that, we may have been attracted to a certain relationship or attracted to a certain career path that at that time was aligned to the values that we had back then. But as our values change, evolve, expand, become redefined, just change, our priorities change. The values that that particular career or that particular relationship espouses, or that particular relationship or career has, our values no longer align to that, and we start to feel disconnected. And so this is where we need to catch up with who we've become, upgrading our thinking, upgrading our thoughts, upgrading the way that we feel about our lives. And maybe for some of us, it's changing our career. That's what it was for me anyway. For some of us, it's a relationship change. For some of us, well, for me, it was the relationship, my marriage. I mean, I've been married to my wife, Silvana, now since 1996, and it's amazing the experience that we've had. And I mean that in a beautiful way. Like, it's been an incredible journey. And I know that that's because we've evolved together, not in a linear, perfect fashion, but as my values changed and her values changed, we both evolved in a general direction to our souls. We both have moved from our heads into our hearts over these last 20 years. So, and what amplified and accelerated that was the birth of our twin sons back in 2008. My Lord, that changed everything, to say the very least. So some of us find ourselves lost because we're in environments that we've been in for a long time, and we've disengaged from those environments where what used to matter now no longer matters. So if you can relate to any of that, you're in the right place. We also, with these Insights episodes, guys, I also want to explore thoroughly emotional fitness, how emotional fitness works. And that's a term that I use often in my trainings and with my clients. And emotional fitness is made up of 5 core focus areas, or 5 core principles that we'll get to explore thoroughly here on this journey. And one of those principles is the whole principle around identity. Like, who are we? And the identity that we have and how we see ourselves, our self-concept, is significant. It's important because everything that we experience in life is filtered through the concept that we have of ourselves. Because as Carl Jung says, we can only, perception is projection, is what Carl Jung said, which is a fancy way of saying that all we can see in others is what is contained within us. Now, that's a big statement, and there's a lot to that statement, and we'll get to explore that more thoroughly in one of the episodes. But our identity and how we see ourselves determines so much of what we attract in our lives, what we are drawn to our lives, what we deflect or reject in our lives. How people respond to us is a reflection on how we see ourselves. Someone whose identity is very much centered around being a victim, people will respond to them very, very differently to someone who sees themselves in a much more healthy, robust way. So there's so much to our identity and how it all works. And that's one of the core areas of emotional fitness that we'll get to explore thoroughly. One of the other areas is that our identity is affected directly by the life stage that we are at. There are fundamentally 4 life stages that we go through, and we'll explore this very thoroughly as well. So we get to go really deep into understanding each of these life stages, which has an impact on how we see ourselves. And each of those life stages leads to the quality or the range of values that we have. And that's the third core principle, values, our emotional compass, which I've touched on here already. And our values and emotional compass has a direct impact on the health of our emotional range. And our emotional range is the 4th core principle, the 4th core area that we're going to be exploring at some point very, very thoroughly here as well. I'm so excited about this. My God, I'm trying to contain myself. Seriously, I am, because I love this stuff. I love sharing these messages with people out there, because I know that if it's explained in a very clear way, it makes an immediate impact. It transforms lives. And ultimately, transformation simply means, for all of us to become better human beings. And we are on the road to becoming better human beings, regardless of how we see ourselves. There's always the next step. There's always the next level. There's always the next level of evolution. So emotional range is really, really important area to look at. And then there's the 5th core principle, and that is the health of our perspective. And there's a whole bunch of stuff I've got to share with you around that. The health of our perspective determines the quality of our experiences. And the quality of our experiences determines completely and utterly the quality of our lives. So I'll just repeat these. The 5 core areas of emotional fitness that we're going to be going deep into over the course of these episodes is our identity, our self-concept. There's so much to that. There's the life stage that we're at. That's the 2nd core principle. The values, the emotional compass, and is our emotional compass, our current emotional compass, aligned to the life stage that we're at? We're going to look at that thoroughly. We're going to look at emotional range and how that works and what that's all about, and how our emotions are created, why we create them, how we can change them, the difference between emotions and feelings, 2 completely different things. And we'll talk about that more thoroughly. We'll look at perspective and how the cleanliness and the health of our perspective directly impacts our identity. So it's like a circle. So that's what emotional fitness is all about. These episodes, I also, on every so often, I'm going to be interviewing somebody who's been on this path, on this journey. I think we're all on the same journey in completely and utterly different ways. We're all on this journey of ambition to meaning. In the egotistical or egocentric world of ambition. And by the way, let me just be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with ambition. I think ambition is fantastic. I just think ambition needs to be recontextualized or reframed or redefined in the context of meaning, because ultimately all fulfillment is found through meaning. And the only way that I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm happy to have feedback, but the only way that I know that we can all create meaning in our lives is by being of service to somebody else, by being of service to our market, genuinely and utterly, like really for real, being of service to our community, of service to our children, of service to our partners. And by service, I don't mean to the detriment of us suffering. I mean in terms of like us enjoying the experience of us through how we're impacting and adding value and serving others. That's how we find meaning. It's Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. I'm ad-libbing here, but he said that where there's a lack of meaning, humankind will overcompensate with pleasures, where we will, fill our lives with all kinds of pleasures, whether those pleasures are, watching Netflix for days on end, or alcohol or drugs or excessive behaviors of any kind, whether they're healthy behaviors, unhealthy behaviors. And I mean, a healthy behavior can be done excessively, where then it becomes an unhealthy behavior. And so where pleasures overtake because There's a lack of perception of meaning in that person's life. They'll fill their life with pleasures. So he says that, and I think that's amazing, because the chief desire of humankind has never been to get pleasure. In the human behavioral realm of human emotion, there's some psychologists in the turn of the century who said that, as humankind, we will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. And so once we've avoided that pain, then that means that life becomes about moving toward pleasure. But once we've got all the pleasures that we want in life, then what's next? Well, the chief desire of humankind has never been pleasure. It's been meaning. And if that resonates with you, you're in the right place. And that is what Insights with Joe Pane, me, is all about in these episodes coming up. And I'm looking forward to also, as I'm sharing with you, as I just mentioned a few moments ago, interviewing some amazing people who have embarked on this journey of ambition to meaning, and ultimately, integrating ambition into meaning, so we can have meaningful, ambitious missions to be on that can only involve other people. There's nothing more boring than for you and me to be focusing on ourselves. If any of us focus on ourselves for a week or more, our energy drops. We actually start getting bored. We start becoming depressed. And that is not a reflection of our character. That's just the nature of the human condition, because the human condition is wired to serve. So if any of this message resonates with you, I'm really looking forward for you to embark on this journey with me, this adventure into the insights into the human condition, into insights into your soul, my soul, our lives, our emotional health. That's what this is all about. So I really appreciate you hopping in here today and listening to this first episode. And I'm really looking forward to episode 2 as we begin to dive deeply into this amazing world of human behavior, this amazing world of emotion, this incredible world of life and all of these wonderful experiences. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm really, as you can probably tell, a touch excited about embarking on this journey with you and sharing with you everything I can on all of this, and bringing on board some amazing people that I can interview as we go along. So these episodes will be a mixture of me talking with you and another episodes where I'll be interviewing some other cool person. All right. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you at the next episode. You'll hear from me in the next episode. Thanks so much. Enjoy. Bye for now. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you're thoroughly loving the journey of these messages, please feel more than welcome to leave a review, and be sure to leave a comment on what you've been learning and how useful this has been to you, and how you've been sharing this with those around you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.